Hey everyone, welcome to the brand new Luminous podcast. This is a new conversational series where I'm going to sit down with new media artists from across the spectrum. My goal with this program is to give public voice to the people behind the most amazing examples of visual and interactive art. In this industry, it's really common to see something that inspires you on Instagram or in a blog, find the name of the artist or the crew that's responsible, and then have them remain a complete mystery. Who are the people that make these installations come to life? Where are they from? What do they love about the work that they do? What drives them crazy? These are the questions that I want to answer as I speak with some of the community's most prolific names. My first interview is with Brian Pinkham, a longtime friend and collaborator. My relationship with Brian goes way back to Envision Festival in the jungles of Puerto Rico back in 2013. Brian's a brilliant LED programmer who uses microcontrollers to create embedded systems that drive light patterns across the light art installations that he builds. He's had his work displayed at festival installations all over the world, including Galactic Jungle at Burning Man, Carey Thompson's Portal, and Helianthus Enormae, I think that's how you say it, with Fez Gaetz. He also has a prominent piece featured at the Onedome Interactive Arts and Entertainment Space in San Francisco. Our conversation wound its way through his current work, his background as an artist, and we jam on some of our pet peeves and commonalities. It's a good first episode, and I hope you enjoy it.
Might not.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there might be too much noise in the background. Whoops. There might be who fucking knows?
Yeah. Well, the murder of crows is now gone, so.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for coming in. I guess this is our first episode, so it's an experiment. Yeah. And me and Brian, we've known each other for a long time. Probably what?
7 or 8 years, maybe?
7, 8 years.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that makes you one of my oldest running friends at this point. I figure might as well start with somebody who I feel very comfortable with.
Yeah. I met you in, I think, the second Envision in Costa Rica.
Yeah, that's right.
Whoa, you're like me. We're at the same level or something.
Yeah. Well, it's rare to find people who are on that tip, Yeah. Who are actually light artists and doing the thing.
You guys had just finished the Dragon. And you were telling me about that,
which would make it 8 years.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So what are you working on now, man? What are you doing?
A lot of this year has just been sort of research and development and working on two main things. One being turning my software and tech into a professional lighting product that enables me to do my work faster, enables me to hand off my gear to other people. I'm currently in this place, so I've been in this place where a lot of times I'm in the bottleneck for everything that I do. It's if something breaks, I need to fix it. Something needs to be installed, I need to do it.
Yeah, the buck stops.
Yeah, and so this allows me to do my work much faster, work with other people, have other people do the installs and repairs and stuff like that, and then have a physical product that they can also then be sold, and technology which can be licensed. And so the other part of what this year's been about is working with Flowtoys a lot. We've been integrating my pattern engine.
You're an integral part of their operation at this point.
At this point, yeah. So everything
for
from
people who don't know, Flowtoys is Flowtoys is they're fire prop maker that does LED fire props. So it's LED enabled spinning props.
Yeah. So everything from the Flowlight 2.0 on is now using my pattern engine. And as you know, I was around them when they were developing Flowtoys, and I just watched this sort of painstaking process of Sean, who runs the company with Prisna, kind of dictating the visions that he had for the kinds of effects that he wanted to make.
He's kind of an experienced dictator.
Yeah,
that's his vibe.
And so just watching how that process went of him trying to dictate this very specific visual experience that he wanted to create to the programmer. I don't know, it felt like a really frustrating experience. So I basically created an interface to enable him, who has no programming experience, but a lot of like visual aesthetic, light art, you know, intelligence. Enabling Sean to be able to create really amazing LED patterns for his LED props on the fly.
I feel like that's how a lot of the best collaborations between like client and designer end up working. You know, it's like you'll have a client who has like a vision. Sometimes that vision is completely ridiculous and doesn't make any physical sense when you're trying to like build something. But, you know, it's like your job to take that effect and then turn that into like some kind of reality. Yeah.
And then it's been like super cool too, because so now they've integrated the pattern engine into their LED clubs, which have XYZ accelerometer, and I've built in all these like interactive
juggling clubs.
Yeah, juggling clubs.
Yeah.
So I built in all these interactive features, but I've just made a framework that I handed off to them, and so they've got this guy Jeremiah the juggler, who's like juggler extraordinaire and also a brilliant technical mind, and he's just like absorbed like the pattern engine interface and has been making like incredible interactive patterns and effects.
So he's using so your engine is basically like it's like a pattern generation environment where the goal of your software is to allow people to create patterns algorithmically
without ever needing to touch software. It's entirely touchpad interface driven.
Yeah.
And the reason that a big part of why I made it is because like I'd arrive on site at a gig and a client would ask for something really creative, and then I'd have to like the struggle between being in left brain and right brain mode.
Sure,
is
you
like,
got to go from programming brain to creative brain, and then
and so I'm like, how
there's
can
that barrier.
How can I front load all of that? Programming brain energy, so that I can actually arrive on site and like stay in creative flow.
Yeah, you're creating a paintbrush.
Yeah, exactly.
You're trying to create a paintbrush
That's
palette,
exactly what
and
it is.
Yeah. So like your software, it runs on a microcontroller. So it's almost like in my world, you know, we work with very PC, PC paintbrushes, you know, like the Madrixes of the world, and like Mad Mapper, et cetera, and those are very focused. The paradigm there is taking like video and mapping that onto pixels, but you're working from a paradigm where you're using math to drive patterns down linear fixtures. So like LED strips, for example, or whatever. But it seems like that's the seed that your whole thing started with. Yeah. And that's the paradigm you've run
exactly.
With.
And it's like, how can I design like a product or an LED controller that uses like the minimum amount of processing power to get like the maximum amount of like visual effect, I guess. And that's one of the things that the product that I'm working on is really focused on, is, you know, rather than having like a single super powerful computer that does all of the rendering on the computer and then spits it out to all of its individual nodes. It's like all of the calculations like are done locally on the on a bunch of smaller microcontrollers.
Yeah, it's a distributed model.
Yeah,
it's very cool.
Yeah, and so then if we lose one, the whole system doesn't go out. It's like you just lose that one.
Not only that, but it's a lot cheaper as far as hardware goes, or it can be. I guess it all depends on scale. Yeah. Right, because like absolutely. I'm sure there are instances. I know there are instances where, it makes more sense to do a centralized model. But then, we worked on the battery nightclub or lounge in San Francisco together, and that was an example of a time where it really made no sense to do it in a centralized way.
Exactly.
Where we had your nodes acting as the workhorses generating the actual patterns. And then those nodes were in turn triggered by a lighting desk, essentially.
Yeah, using very little data to send to my nodes to control it.
Yeah.
And so, it's like trying to drive like the most number of LEDs with the least amount of data.
Yeah. Well, that was when I never really quite got, I was always like, I don't quite get it. I don't understand. Like, why would you use like microcontrollers when you could, use a PC system? And this is like, during my evolution as an LED engineer, it was like, I didn't really get that until we did the battery. And then I was like, oh, I understand. Like the use case for this is like when you're doing massive installations and
distributed and
you can distribute that workload instead of having like a $50,000, server that's trying to drive, hundreds of thousands of LED pixels centralized.
And trying to drive video content, And there's a lot of situations where it's like video content in a lot of cases is great for screens, but there are lots of situations where, you've got this low resolution, squiggle of pixels. And if you try and treat that as if it was a screen, it's just going to look muddled. And so it's actually, you get a much better visual effect to do, a much lower level pixel generation.
Well, I mean, as an artist, I've never liked the contextual video on pixels thing. Like, I don't like that look. I don't like LED screens. I think that, it's like, great, have a billboard, or do something artistic. And I've never, even, with Madrix, which is our weapon of choice currently, we don't really map video onto the pixels. We use its algorithmically generative, pattern functionality. That's, to me, that's like that's the ultimate in creativity, because if in the end, I would always be generating content algorithmically, whether it's through the software I'm using to map or going into like After Effects. And then doing that same thing with patterns. But it just adds another layer of abstraction to the whole process where you're like, okay, now I got to go into After Effects. I got to export a video to import into my pixel mapping software.
Totally.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Even with like After Effects and stuff like that, you still run into some of the same problems of like putting video on like pixel screens. Like there's like a little bit of like muddiness to the way that it like maps over, because it's not as like super pixel for pixel.
Yeah.
But it opens up a whole lot of doors in terms of, what you can creatively do with things that I couldn't even dream of doing with my lower level stuff.
Well, here's the thing. And that's where I think the two worlds meet,
Absolutely.
It's like, and with your new product, the fact that it can work in both ways, or it seems like that's kind of the direction you guys are going.
Exactly.
Because like I know my toolboxes, it's like I'll always be using After Effects.
Exactly.
We're starting to work with the software called Smode.
Mm-hmm.
It's a French generative software, kind of like Touch Designer, but it's just like a killer tool set, doing like particle effects and like all kinds of shit. And it's like, we'll always use stuff like that, but then it's relying on like intuitive and like well thought out hardware between that software and the pixels.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's why I'm really stoked to see what you guys are doing.
Yeah. One of the things that's important for me is being able to merge incoming like Artnet or basically incoming data from other sources with my own like generated like local LED control algorithms.
Yeah, man. No matter how much, like Artnet is a stupid protocol, but it's like, it's the protocol, it's like everybody uses that. And to make a product, you just got to play that game.
Exactly.
You have to, because everybody speaks Artnet, even if it's a stupid protocol. Yeah. And until the industry adopts something new, which, who fucking knows, like
it's coming.
Yeah. I mean, it's coming. Yeah. But I mean, it's like, it takes how do you dictate, okay, the whole world is going to start speaking this new language. It's like, that's a hard thing to dictate,
Yeah.
So where are you guys with that process? Like, you guys are working on that new system. You're working with Flowtoys to kind of do, would you call that like prototype runs or like beta runs?
Yeah. We've, We kind of jump all over the place. And so we've probably, I don't know, we've probably made like 8 different like prototypes so far. And over the past several years, we just got a pick and place machine. So we're starting to really be able to ramp up.
I'm excited
our
about
production.
that.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome. I'm really excited about it. Because it means that we can move much more quickly.
Yeah.
And I've also, like in the past, like I've had so many situations where sending interesting and novel stuff to China and having it getting ripped off. Like I've literally had probably 6 products or 6 circuits be knocked off by sending it to China.
I want to come back to that later. Let's talk about that because that's really interesting to me. I've never.
Yeah.
I guess that one thing that me and you did together got ripped off, but that's the closest I've come to like.
Adafruit's now selling that circuit.
I know they are, man. Well, good for them. Hopefully they can make a buck.
Yeah.
We'll invent something new.
Because we sure didn't.
Yeah. This is true.
Yeah, so we're currently working on 2 main iterations. One is sort of, actually, it's, I guess more than 2. We're starting off with 2. One having like being an 8 output.
2 different products.
Yeah.
Or product versions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
One of them is 8 outputs, got Ethernet in, and it's designed to have like these sort of stackable shields to it, which enable you to be able to, in the future, add sensors. We're going to be able to add like an FPGA module that radically increases the number of pixel outputs from 8 to possibly like be able to drive like 32 strips
Of how
something like
how
that.
much how long?
I'm not entirely sure just
Yeah,
yet, but
So parallel parallel.
yeah,
processing.
as soon as you're able to offload your pixel data from the microcontroller, you free up so much bandwidth. And so we haven't started yet, but going down the FPGA route to drive those is something I'm excited about.
Well, it's Voodoo Magic as far as I'm concerned, man. But I understand, I understand the principle behind FPGA. I understand the the draw. It's like you can literally just create exactly what you need in a hardware platform.
Exactly. Yeah, it feels like I guess Voltron. You just this configuration and go.
Yeah.
And suddenly you have this whole like new circuit architecture.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Yeah, I had a friend, John English, who had this Kickstarter campaign for an LED art project that he was doing years and years ago called Sound Puddle. And this is like...
Is it called Sound Puddle?
Sound Puddle, yeah. He's out of Boulder, Colorado. And at that point in time, this was before like the Teensy came out, and this was like, I was like rocking the Arduino Uno hard. But it was super limited. I could only do 300 pixels.
Man, I think everybody rocked the Arduino.
Yeah.
That's like where everything started.
Yeah.
Right?
And so he had this whole FPGA project where he had an FPGA that literally emulated like 16 Arduino Unos.
Wow.
So he was able to deal with like much higher LED output by just emulating Arduino Unos in parallel.
That's funny. Well, that's cool. I mean, that's an expensive way to stack up 16 Arduino Unos, but good.
Yeah, the end result was gorgeous. Yeah, it was this immersive dome that you'd go inside of, and LED strips like lining the ceiling, and then any sound that you make, it has a whole Fourier transform like analysis, and then you can see your voice represented in lights on the ceiling.
Yeah,
in this really beautiful way. It was done really elegantly.
That's always been so impressive to me when you can like generative pattern creation, right? So like doing low level LED patterns in hardware. That's also like Voodoo Magic to me. It's like, yeah, I get it. I understand how to do that with like, with systems like Touch Designer, but to do that on a microcontroller, you got to have a whole different kind of brain.
Okay.
It's like a whole different
You got to
thing.
sacrifice something to be able to play in that dimension.
No, I think it's really cool, and I respect what you guys are doing so much because you have the right talent, you know, between your hardware guy and the software guy that you guys have coming on right now. I don't know if we're going to talk about them, but you know, whatever. It's like it's a great team.
Mark and Amon.
Yeah, they're badasses, and you guys have like the A team. It's really exciting because as long as we've known each other, you've been talking about like releasing a product, and it's like you guys seem like you're getting really fucking close.
It's
you know?
actually happening now.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. You know, I'm excited to play with it because it's just like another tool that I'm stoked to have in the toolbox.
Yeah, it's gonna be super versatile too.
Yeah. So you're moving to Colorado, right? You're out of here. You're going to Colorado. You're going to work with Meow Wolf, right?
Well, so I've got
'Cause that's where you're from.
I consider myself to be from Colorado, even though I wasn't born there. But I've got a collaboration with Carey Thompson from Meow Wolf in Las Vegas. There is zero guarantee of anything with Meow Wolf in Denver, but
It seems like
my timing feels good.
Well, I've heard some interesting rumors. You know, I'm involved with the One Hat guys, and they're kind of like they're also very. A lot of those guys are friends with the people who are like pushing out, you know, like the core team of Meow Wolf, and you know, it's just they're like, let's just keep doing this until we can't. Let's just do it until the money runs out. You know, like, and it's impressive.
You know, I've got like. I think I've got 2 proposals submitted for Meow Wolf Denver.
Nice.
But what I'm really kind of banking on is I just have the feeling that it's like there are going to be a bunch of people whose proposals get accepted, and then we're gonna come to find out that, oh shit, we don't know how to do technology, and be like, guess what, guys? I do.
Well, you're in a great place, and you're like local, dude. You're not only are you like everybody knows who you are. They do. You know, it's like Brian Pinkham. You're a light artist. You're like all over. LEDs are awesome. You know, it's like you're friends with all those Denver guys. I feel like a lot of those grants, it's like, okay, well, maybe your particular idea that you just like shot out of your hat isn't going to fit perfectly. But they'll find something else for you to do.
Totally.
You know, especially because who's the woman there who's
Annie Phillips?
Yeah, Annie Phillips.
Oh man.
Yeah, Annie. So, you know, you guys are homies, and like, you know, it'll work out. I'm really excited for that. You know, I'm excited to see what comes out of that and see how you end up playing with that crew.
Totally.
I was at a going away party last night. My friends are moving to Denver, or like just outside of Denver.
Oh, right.
Yeah, man, they got a house for like, you can afford property in Denver or like whatever, you know, it's their mortgage is $1,600 a month, I think, for like a 4-bedroom house. You know, it's like, what am I doing here? I don't even understand. I mean, I do, but like, fuck. Maybe we should just uproot and move to Denver.
This is a really good place for what we do, though.
It is, man. It is, and it's like it or not, you know, with the labs, and just like I'm planted. I feel like all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit. You know, I was thinking about moving to Barcelona not too long ago, and it's like, well, how the hell would I even do that? You know, it's like, if I moved to Barcelona...
Virtual assistants. Lots of them.
Right. Virtual assistants, soldering the LED strip. We're actually working with some virtual assistants, and they're kind of amazing, man. Like, all of the things that... you know, and I hate that whole fucking bro-y paradigm of like, you know, like the 10-hour work week or whatever, but it has made things so, because we don't have enough money to hire like a bunch of people, you know? So like Sam, our marketing homie, she's like, you know, if we can like not have her filling spreadsheets with information, you know, then great. You know, that gives her more time to do more useful stuff.
Yeah.
So that's been an interesting experiment, and it seems like it's working out pretty well so far.
Cool. Yeah, we were playing around with virtual assistants for Fiberflies for a little while.
Yeah.
But not with a ton of luck. So I think we kind of dipped out of that.
Yeah. So you were you were knee deep in Fiberflies. You helped develop that technology.
I invented it.
Yeah.
And then a couple years later, partnered with Alien John, and together, like, he did a fantastic job of like building out the business and really dialing in our proper manufacturing. And I sold the rest of the company to him a month ago.
Yeah.
At the very end of 2018.
Yeah, I saw a post on Facebook.
Yeah, and oh man, and I just saw like Fiberflies were in a DJ Snake, Cardi B like music video. Dude,
I'm getting old, man. I don't even know who the fuck is DJ Snake. I don't even know, but like whatever.
Turn down for what, bro? Turn down for what?
All right. Well, good for him, man. It's so funny. So Fiberflies they're a fiber optic whip. If you've been to like any of the festivals in like the last 5 years, you've seen some sexy girl flinging one around on the dance floor. They're really cool. And Brian, you were the brainchild behind that.
I was the first one. There was like a few other ones.
Yeah.
Now there are probably like 3 or 4 other companies that are on the scene too.
Yeah, they're super psychedelic, man. I've always wanted to. Eventually, I will make a fiber optic chandelier, and I'll talk to you about using that driver or whatever. But yeah, they're beautiful. It's funny to see how Alien John, who was like the biggest like circus kid, you know, he was just like, all right, I'm a businessman now, and he like took that and ran with it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it goes, though, right? In the flow art scene.
And he's been doing a great job, and I'm curious. It's because for me, you know, my passion has really been in installation work, and so working on Fiberflies, like that was something I was really passionate about at the very beginning. But then it just sort of started to dwindle, and as I wanted to go more and more into installation work, you know, I kind of left Fiberflies hanging. So I'm actually really curious to see, with me like fully handing over the reins to him, if shit's gonna like really take off now that he's got.
Your job is done, man.
Control.
I mean, like you're a creative, you know. I feel like I understand that 100%. Where it's like I don't, you know, products might mean financial stability, but in the end, it's like one thing. I want to do a project in 6 months, see it to completion, and then get the fuck out and not think about it until it breaks. Yeah, I get a frantic phone call in the middle of the night.
Yeah. You're going to need to fly down to LA tomorrow.
Yeah. Man, we've been dealing with that, with the Dragon, our first project. It's been like 7 years. Finally, like drivers are starting to fail, you know, pixels are starting to fail.
A solid run.
Yeah, man. But it was, you know, God, we were so inexperienced. No maintenance contract, no nothing. And, you know, like the client, he calls us up. He's like pissed off. He's like, dude, it's broken. I'm like, and he sells airplane parts. I'm like, man, you build something like completely unique, completely custom, like a Ferrari or a freaking glowing LED Dragon. And you got to maintain that shit. You know, it's like, you can't just buy it and then expect it's going to work forever.
But they're LEDs. They last forever.
Exactly. Yeah, that's been a thing. I've been going back down there. But yeah, it's cool to see. It still works. It's funny. It's like, I feel like our community, like we have like little like light art droppings that we just leave all over the world. Right. Yeah. And then like, you'd be like.
It's super fun. So Lucidity is one of the ones that it's like one of the festivals that's like cross-pollinated enough with a bunch of different scenes and different makers.
Yeah.
That when I go to Lucidity, I'm like, whoa, I did that. And I did that. Like, I don't know. It's sort of fun experience.
Well, think about how many people you've inspired. I mean, honestly, like think about how many people have seen cool light art. They don't know it's you. They don't know who it is. They're just like, whoa, that's cool. You know, and like, I feel like the whole light art scene is like, it's this branch of the maker scene, right? Which like now they've got like, you know, Maker Magazine and like Adafruit and all that shit. But it's like, I feel like the LED art scene is so tied into that, you know, and it's like so much of like, you know, it's like making cool blinky shit. It's one of the cool things you can do with like maker scene, maker tech, you know?
Yeah, totally.
You got your start as a roboticist, right? You were working for like making missiles, killer robots, right?
So I worked for, at first I worked for a small company called Perceptic Robotics. And then a year into that,
I thought you were going to say a small company called Lockheed Martin.
well, so literally, a year into it though, they Perceptic was bought out by Lockheed.
Right.
And
that's how it happens.
Yeah. But Lockheed was like, no, don't worry. We won't weaponize any of your technology. And then come to find, like, specifically the division that bought us out was the Missiles and Fire Control Division.
Oh my God.
It's like, there is not a non-violent word in that name. Like, of course you're going to weaponize our shit. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, that's the fundamental, it's like the people who invent technology, like, inventors aren't warriors. Yeah. Like, I don't know anybody who's like, I know one person, I will not name his name, but I don't know anybody who's like in the scene of like inventing cool shit or like working with technology that's like a violent person by nature, like you just want to make cool shit.
Yeah. So that buyout and like the new company culture, just like it sucked. It felt really, it felt like we went from being trusted and, this very lighthearted, friendly group of people to being a much more like constricted, like cameras installed everywhere, like
in the office.
Yeah.
Like watching you.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah. Just the culture shifted and I'm like, you know what?
Did you have to pass a background test?
Yeah. Oh.
Did you tell him you were a psychonaut? Did they ask you about psychedelics, or they're like,
Okay, so yeah. Yeah, I had to pass a security test, a security clearance screening.
Right.
And so,
because if you admit to smoking weed, even right,
yeah,
you're not. They won't let you.
So, so I'm like, have just finished college. I am on my way out to Colorado to start this job, and I get a call from whatever agency does the security clearances. And they're like, Brian, we need to interview you for the security clearance. I'm like, okay, I'm in Pennsylvania. They're like, where are you? Like, such and such and such and such. They're like, okay, meet us tomorrow at 10 a.m. like a few miles from where you are. I was like, wait, what? And I'm like on my way to a Psytrance festival.
I was gonna guess that. That's hilarious.
And so they're like, okay, have you ever done drugs? And I'm like, yeah, in college.
You smoked the reefer.
I took, yeah, I took mushrooms, and then I told them about my first mushroom trip.
Were these like, were they like the like CIA type? Was this your colleagues or was this?
Nope. No, this is like, yeah, it's super stiff. Like, I don't know, very like military government kind of dude.
Sure.
And he's like, okay, tell me about your experience. I was like, well, I went to heaven for a little bit, and it was beautiful and amazing. And then I descended into the depths of hell, all of which was true. Yeah. And I felt all the pain of everybody that's ever been like hurt in the world, and then I came back down from the trip, and I realized that drugs are bad. I'm never gonna do it again. And he's like, okay, so you learned your lesson. I'm like, yep, definitely learned my lesson. And he's like, and so would you say you tripped out?
Oh my God.
Like, yeah, I tripped out. Like, but then I realized I needed to focus on my schoolwork and.
Right. Well, you got the job.
I got the job. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, at a certain point, like if you're the government, if you're looking for creative people, you can't avoid it. You have to like.
Yeah, and a big part of the problem too is not as much its use. It's that people can blackmail you. If your employer, like if you have secrets that you need to keep from your employer, that makes you manipulatable.
Right. Like if you were, say, in a hotel room in Russia with a prostitute and the KGB recorded you,
Yep.
they could use that to blackmail you.
Yeah.
It's a crazy,
So just
crazy,
keep all your shadows out in the open.
Sure,
and
yeah.
You're fine.
Right, absolutely. Well, I mean, I don't think it's particularly embarrassing or surprising or shocking to anybody. People in our industry have like played with psychedelics.
Exactly.
I feel like that's partly how you become a successful light artist.
Yeah.
Not always though. I've definitely met some like really straight, really cool. I'm working with not that he's straight edge or anything, but Yona. Yona Appletree. He does Light at Play, the domes up in Portland.
Oh yeah, the ones with the translucent like.
Yeah. And he's a badass, man. He's definitely like he works with some pretty straight and narrow people, but they're all very, very creative.
Yeah. Nice.
So are you doing collaborations right now? Or are you thinking about festivals, or are you pretty much just getting ready for your move, focusing on your product?
I have sort of pulled away from festival world. I skipped Burning Man last year. I'll probably do it again this year.
Skip it or go?
What's that? I skipped last year, but I'll probably go this year.
Yeah, see, I'm on the opposite schedule.
Yeah. At this point, the only festivals that are financially worth going to are the ones you don't really want to go to.
Yeah.
Or more specifically, that I don't really want to go to. And yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Right now, like this past year has literally just been a lot more internal and a lot less like going out and making big things. It's been really focusing on nailing the systems that I can then reproduce and scale with.
Yeah.
And so like I made a whole like compilation of like my past work from the past 10 years and there is a decided absence of work this year.
Yeah.
I do have a couple like small pieces at Onedome
launching a project
in San Francisco.
Oh yeah, you were very heavily involved in that in Onedome.
Ish. I came in at the last minute and like made some thermal camera sensors and put in my galaxy sphere, like this psychedelic vortex sphere thing that you look into. And
yeah, I saw that, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And so there's a girl like that apparently like a 5-year-old girl who loved it so much she decided to like climb up on top of it and then like collapsed through it.
Oh no. Oh no.
Broke
really?
the mirror and the circuit and
dude. So that's all of these interactive spaces, right? Mm-hmm. Like Meow Wolf and Onedome.
They need
and
to
like,
be able to take a fucking beating.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is that it's like it's a children's museum.
Yeah, it's
basically.
Like if you've done a good job if like your installation could withstand like a child on meth. Like
on meth.
It needs to be like that level of robust.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Kids, because I mean, I imagine that's like, I guess Onedome is blowing up. Like honestly, if I'm gonna be honest, like when I went and did the walkthrough, did like the artist tour or whatever, I was just like, it's nifty, it's cool. But like, I guess it's been a huge success. Tourists will come in and it's just like it's like we've seen all that shit before a million times. Like no one else has. Yeah. Like to the average society or average people, they're just like, what the fuck is this?
Well, they've learned a lot from Meow Wolf, and Meow Wolf really set the precedent for, guess what, this experience is not just for people at festivals. Like we can invite the general public and children and grandparents into this, and they'll be just as blown away, and they don't need to take any substances to enjoy it.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I think it's brilliant, and it's a long time coming. If you kind of look at like Burning Man culture, it's like all about participation, and that's shifted the whole culture, right? Like our entire culture, like maybe global culture, is much more experiential, like experiential. It's like the buzzword of the fucking, it's so annoying,
Immersive,
but it's
experiential,
like, but
interactive.
It came from somewhere, right? It came from like, no one wants to watch TV. People want to play with shit.
Exactly.
They want to be a part of the show.
Yep. That's
cool. So you did that thing in the entryway, right? Describe that. It was like a
so it's two-way mirrors, dome mirrors that have a Flower of Life circuit board that I made that's sandwiched in between the two of them, And when you look at it, you can't tell what the hell's going on because it's like
an
it's a
infinity
reflection
sphere.
inside of a reflection that's warped parabolically, and you just look at it and like, I'm a smart guy, but my brain can't comprehend like what's happening here.
Sure. Yeah, totally.
And then we've got like these little rocks to the side of it. Like there are these chairs that go around it with these little rocks. And you sit down, there's like these little handprints that light up on the rock. You put your hand on the handprint and it activates different sequences inside of the infinity bubble, the galaxy sphere, I think is what we're calling it. And
I love that natural tie-in. You know, like the nature vibe. Because I think that like my favorite part of that whole place is like the very first room. You know what I'm talking about? Like the jungle with like the little river going through it or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know if that's part of Onedome. Like I don't even know if that's the same thing.
Yep.
But it's like nature plus psychedelic LEDs and psychedelic light art. It just goes so well together.
So they moved into that space and that shit was already there.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So there's this like Chinese billionaire or something like that, who has owned that space for a long time. And I think it was last open, I think in the 80s or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he's just been waiting for the right client because like this space already has this like woodland, like elf, like hobbit huts and stuff.
Yeah, it's like
and
psychedelic elf land. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, it's like, what's the name of that restaurant that it's like the forest restaurant?
I don't know.
Has all the whatever. It's like a better version of the Rainforest Cafe. That's the name of it.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever been in there, but
yeah,
it's definitely a trip. I love the vibe. I love the deco. I love how like it's like all the fiber optics coming up through the plants and the rocks and whatever. It's just like, damn, Avatar, man. That's what when I walked in there, I was just like, this is freaking Avatar right here. Which, by the way, I think has some of the most beautiful set layouts. I know it's all CG, but set design, whatever.
I really want to go to Florida and check out like the Avatar like amusement park.
Is there an Avatar amusement park?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not sure if it's finished yet, and I don't know if it's going to be tacky, but I sure as shit.
Well, you should have called us.
I know. Yeah.
They're coming out with 3 more. You know that, or 2 more.
Yep.
James Cameron, he's like, I don't know what has been taking so long. They like crank out those Star Wars movies like, a couple a year, but like there's 2 more Avatars. He's making both at the same time.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited.
Definitely gonna go see those. I don't care what people say. People are like,
Do people talk shit?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh man.
People definitely talk shit, man. People like hate that movie. They're like, oh, it's just like Dancing with the Wolves, or basically
Gully Dance. So
the plot. Well, the plot line is very parallel to other plot lines.
An experience. Just have an experience.
It is.
Shut up.
I'm generally mostly about plot line, and that's the story is what counts for me. But with Avatar, it's like the visual experience of that movie was just so. It was just such a beautiful movie. It's just like, damn, it's a beautiful movie.
Yep.
I want to make some light art. I want to make a chandelier that fits into that forest. Oh man. Well, how you feeling?
Good.
Cool.
Yeah. Where to next?
I don't know. Why don't we talk about like some of the first festivals that you did artwork for? Like what was the first festival that you did a piece for?
Okay. Well, how about something similar, just like the trajectory into entering into like light art and that kind of path.
Yeah.
And it all kind of started in college. I was really into surround sound, and I was geeking out on these like surround sound demos where they create these really beautiful 3-dimensional immersive soundscapes. I don't know. They're nerdy, but I loved them. And I wanted to create this visual experience where
like the multi-point
yeah.
sound experiences or whatever.
Yeah. And I wanted to create like an experience where I put an intelligent LED system on each of the speakers, and then as sound moved in 3 dimensions in my visual space or my like aural space, I'd be able to see it in my visual space as well. And
very synesthesia.
Exactly. And at the time, I didn't have the skill set or the money, and the tech wasn't really there yet to trivially do, like FFT stuff on microcontrollers. And so I wasn't able to pull it off, but it got me looking like, where else is there this kind of weird interactive like light art out there. And then I found this place called Burning Man. And so I found Burning Man by researching like LED installations, like interactive installations.
Oh, that's great.
Like, well, that's cool. There's a place in the desert where people make big LED art and get naked and do weird stuff. Like, okay, that sounds cool. Let's try that out. And so the very first installation that I ever made was for Burning Man, and it was like collaboration with my roommate at the time, later became business partner, and it was this very psytrance-ish string art lotus flower that like had like a little passive infrared sensor, and so when you get near it, the 4 LEDs would spin around in a circle, and you'd be like, "Whoa, that's cool!" And
that's skipping straight to the front of the line, though, man. First installation for Burning Man, though. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that Burning Man doesn't have any standards, so you can bring anything.
Sure. Yeah.
To Burning Man.
Well, when was that? When
it was 2008.
Yeah, I mean that's like, that's prime. That's like the kind of the start. I feel like if LED art is now reaching some kind of like maturity, it was definitely like in its infancy.
Yeah.
In 2008.
Yeah, and so this was long before there were ever any like LED strips that you can get from China. This was like all PWM driven from a single microcontroller kind of stuff.
So you got addressable LEDs, you were making them addressable 1 pixel at a time.
Yeah. And then so after I did that, then I was like, well, wouldn't it be cool if these were all in a line and I could see them as a rainbow? And so I made what I think might be the first, I'm not positive, but I think it might be the first LED rainbow strip.
Oh, wow.
Made.
It's a bold claim there, man.
I know, it's bold. But so what I did was, so there was those little mood lights that, that ravers would like, they've got like a little magnet on the back, you pin it to your whatever, and they fade. Mm-hmm. It goes like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. But it always starts at red on power on. And so I bought like 1,000 of them, and I hacked them open, and then I connected them to like a serial shift register.
Oh, yeah.
That would just turn them on one at a time.
Sure.
And if I turned them on one at a time, then I could actually create like a rainbow fade.
You create your fade.
Through,
sure.
And so that was the first Just Fucking Rainbows. Like, and to top it off, it was like, I put it on an elastic band with like wires kind of zigzag through it, so it was stretchy. Like you could actually stretch it, and it was meant for like this LED suit that I was making to wear to Spangle, like Spangle and a live show on Halloween in London.
Cool.
And then I made it. I saw the rainbow. It was awesome. And then I tried to wear it, and it broke immediately. And I was like, "Fuck this! I'm done."
Dude, wearables are like the hardest thing to make. I've never even tried to make.
And
it
was all like dead bug, like using like the tiniest gauge wires soldered onto like tiny SMD stuff.
Did they have conductive thread back then? Was that like?
They might have, but this was there was so many wires in there that like the conductive thread wouldn't have been a good fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
that's crazy. So what year? That was 2008. You debuted that at Burning Man.
That one was actually, that one's probably 2008.
Yeah.
Maybe 2007. No, 2008 for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember what my first year at Burning Man. I can't even remember. It was definitely like, maybe it was like 5 or 6, 2005, 2006. I definitely went every other year though. After that, I didn't go I did like I did 3 years consecutively, and then I did like every other year. Mm-hmm. But that's cool. So then what happened after that?
So then it was just sort of like a series of making, like, started off making shitty art. And then it just like, it got kind of like less shitty and less
shitty is all in the eye.
It is like, totally, yeah. But it's like,
to say, it's all like on the progression of like where you were to where you are.
Totally. You know? There's a quote that I really appreciate. It's like, like what makes an artist is your taste. And when you start off, you have good taste, but you don't have the talent yet, but you have the sense enough to know that what you're making is shit. So that as you progress, like,
Sure.
you know, you have the ability, your taste ideally stays solid and you're like, oh, wow, I'm less shit now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, your taste matures, your technical abilities definitely mature.
Yeah.
You know, like if I had the level of technical engineering skills back when I started
Totally.
than I do now, I'd have a lot more repeat customers. We'll put it that way.
Ding. Yep. I completely agree. Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess so I say that not as much to be self-deprecating, but just because it's just part of it. It's like
That's part of the process. There is no fucking school, man.
Yeah.
There's no school. There's no college course that you can take for light art. I mean, maybe there is, but I don't know about it.
No, yeah.
You know, it's like you got to go through all the phases of shittiness to like get to, yeah.
Yeah. And so it was just like, one small, like the installation just kind of got bigger and more complex. And then the biggest pitfall that I keep running into is like, I can do this giant thing 10 times the scale of what I've ever done before. And then like I'll try and I'll do like a gigantic project, like in comparison to anything that I've done in the past. And then it'll be incredible growing pains and, sometimes being a total failure, sometimes not, but with each of those, like just get better and better and better. And then it's like 5 years ago, the biggest like project I had ever taken on today would be a fucking cakewalk.
Yeah.
And it's just like with each coming, year and each series of installations, and it's just like, you just grow in your skill set and your capacity and get better and better.
Well, we're kind of creating an industry, right? I mean, it's like, you've got like your, you've got your like audio professionals, you got your laser guys, you've got your, your video guys, and we're this kind of like installation based multimedia light art.
Yeah.
And that was the motivation behind this podcast. I'm like, all right, well, I want to find the people who are like doing cool shit and then just let them talk about their experience. Yeah. But it's cool because it's it's like we get to invent this as we go. We're like inventing this right now.
Totally. And one of the things that I do my best to adhere to, and when I can manage to do it, it usually pays off, is always set expectations low. It's like in your mind, keep that fucking high bar. Like shoot for the stars, but don't ever tell anybody which star you're specifically shooting for.
Yeah.
Because even if you still hit the stars, like, but you're like, no, I was going for Polaris, and you hit Betelgeuse or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I expected, dude. Like,
right.
It's like, no, but it's amazing. Like,
well, that comes down to like client management.
Exactly.
Like expectation management
is absolutely key. And so if you can like sell a really simple idea and then always under promise, over deliver.
It's a hard lesson, man.
It's really, really hard. It's so easy to get wrapped up in the moment, be like, oh my God, that sounds like an amazing idea. Let's make this like, I don't know, butthole reactive. And like, so you can like, I don't know, just like a client is just riffing on some cool idea. And then you all of a sudden find yourself being like, oh yeah, I can do that. Oh, totally. I could do that without stopping to think, can I do that in a month?
Dude, but I think that the most elegant and effective installations are the simplest anyway. Like I really do, so it's like, it's just simple geometry, simple, like, it's like most art to me is like the simpler ideas that are really well done are the best.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's definitely like a thing, but so I'm going to Japan. I'm gonna go interview some other light artists. Team Lab.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna go try and interview those guys.
Right on.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I missed their installation when it was out here. Is it still out here?
I don't know. I honestly didn't really know about them that much at all until I started. We've been pitching that volumetric displays. Well, they did like a crazy volumetric display, and I was just like, oh wow. And then I'm like, oh, Team Lab. And then, yeah, they've got a museum. So they've got like a museum, like a psychedelic light art museum in Tokyo.
That's fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's funny, man, because you've got like Moment Factory, right? And they're like in the West, they're kind of like, you know, they're like the big daddy light artists, you know, who've like made it or whatever. You've got like Obscura, and then you've got like Team Lab over in the East.
Yeah.
And they're just crushing it, you know?
Totally. That's very cool.
Well, it's been our hour.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
An hour and 19 minutes.
Yeah, man. I'm really glad you came.
Yeah.
Did you feel like this was a good conversation?
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Edit this up.
Cool.
Make you seem like you're saying things that you completely did not say. Brian Pinkham.
Like, only mention the drug references. Be like, Brian Pinkham.
He said butthole. He said acid. there are a couple of key words that we can work with this.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's one of the fantastic things about being in this industry too, is that like I actually don't need to hide who I am to do this.
And you shouldn't,
which
dude.
is
it's like
great.
I would be a really shitty, I've said this so many times, I'd be a shitty employee. I'm horrible at hiding like my eccentric nature. I think all of us are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The successful ones are.
Yeah.
No one's in this industry for money. No one's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna become a light artist so I can get rich. My mom and dad, they told me it was either a doctorate or light art.
Yeah. And I overheard like Asha, who runs Pacific Domes, like talking about.
Are they still a thing?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. They're still a thing. But talking about like her son is one of the people who runs Obscura, and you know they book like multi-million-dollar, possibly even like billion-dollar projects. But she was like talking about it, how it just like it doesn't make that much money, and I was like, huh.
Nah, dude. Even the big kids, they're like there are big money projects, and that's like the disconnect, like the cognitive disconnect is like, well, you know, like it's like,
but it's a $5 million project. You should have.
Yeah, but you get like two of those, like, you know, you get those every once in a while, you know, even if you're like Obscura or Moment Factory or Team Labs, it's like you might pull in, you know, some huge projects, but they're few and far between. And
they need a lot of resources.
You know, it's like, great, you pulled in a $5 million project that cost $4.5 million worth of parts and labor and like expenses and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, you know, it's not the same thing as like having a software company where you're just like, okay, you know, like
copy paste,
or it's like you're selling an intangible that doesn't cost money. It costs money in labor, you know, so it's just like paying people.
Yeah.
So when I look at other companies and I'm like, oh man, why don't we have that many employees or like blah, blah, blah. It's just like, you know, our industry is different.
Well, pretty soon you'll be able to 3D print art cars, and then we'll be
Shut
able
your
to we'll just be able to like copy paste and press a button. It prints the electronics and everything.
Right. Done. Look at that. We just made you an art car. Boom.
Yeah. Licensing fee.
Yep. All right, man. Thanks for coming in. Glad we had this talk.
Yep. Pleasure. Over and out.